Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. How are you doing? We'll wait for everybody to come on in before we get started here. Andrea, does it look like everybody's in the waiting room? Are we good? All right. Super. Well, thank you everybody for showing up for the North Business Council's November morning event. And we have Sheriff-elect Rob Hartwick with us today, which is going to be an awesome speaker to listen to this morning. And I'd like to start by just reading his bio with a hashtag, how did you find the time to do all this? I'm not sure. But let me read this off for you before we kick him off into his presentation. And first of all, Rob, thank you for being here this morning. It's really a treat to have you here. So
thank you.
Read a little bit about your background so people know exactly who you are, and we'll get you going. So Robert Hartwick was elected in November of 2012 as the 11th Chief of Police for the St. Augustine Beach Police Department. On January 7th of 2013, he assumed the duties and responsibilities for the agency after being sworn in by the 5 city commissioners. He previously served as the Assistant Chief Investigator with the Office of the State Attorney, 7th Judicial Circuit, encompasses Flagler, Putnam, St. Johns, and Volusia counties. At the State Attorney's Office, he supervised investigations over the 4 counties to include homicide, police corruption, governor assignments, and special prosecutions. During his approximate 26-year law enforcement career, Chief Hartwick also worked at the St. Augustine Police Department, the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, and the Florida Department of Corrections. As a veteran of the U.S. Army, thank you for your service, and Florida Army National Guard, Chief Hartwick has participated in deployments to the Middle East in support of military operations. His deployments include as far back as Operations Desert Storm in 1990 with the 82nd Airborne Division, and as recent as Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003 and 2004 with the 53rd Infantry Brigade supporting the 5th Special Forces Group. His most recent assignment was in the Florida Army National Guard as a platoon trainer at the Camp Blanding Regional Training Institute's Officer Candidate School. In 2018, after 25 years of active and National Guard service, Chief Hartwick honorably retired. Chief Hartwick has a Bachelor of Science degree from Flagler College and a Master of Arts degree from Barry University. He is a graduate of the FBI National Academy, Session 247, graduate of the FBI's Florida Executive Development Seminar, Class 16. Chief Hartwick is also a graduate of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's Chief Executive Seminar, Session 48. In August of 2016, Governor Rick Scott appointed Chief Hartwick to the Criminal Justice and Standards Training Commission. He is the current chair for the Officer Discipline Penalty Guidelines Task Force and chair for the Florida League of Cities Law Enforcement Advisory Panel. Chief Hartwick serves on the Region 5 Training Council and the St. Johns River State College Criminal Justice Academy Advisory Board. He serves on the board of directors for the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office Police Athletic League, the St. Johns County Schools Academy of Law and Homeland Security, and the school advisory board for the St. Joseph Academy Catholic High School. And Chief Hartwick continues to volunteer as a local youth coach. Now, don't you kind of feel lazy now? You and me? I mean, are you getting up early enough to compete with this at any level? So anyways, it's great to have you here this morning, Rob. Thank you for being here to share your story and information with us. Let me turn it over to you and do your thing.
Absolutely. Good morning. And thank you for having me. Truly an honor, and was hoping that the COVID-19 stuff would have calmed down just a little bit so I could actually speak to everyone in person. I like that interaction, but we'll have plenty of time throughout my term to make sure we get together and speak to everybody in person and be able to form that dialogue and business partnership. So again, good morning. Thank you for having me. Truly love speaking at these type of functions. And again, this is you're our business partners in this community. It's what makes us successful as leaders. It makes us successful as public servants. So I appreciate it. One thing I do want to discuss that was at the bottom of my resume, and sometimes you get embarrassed when people talk about your resume, but it's one of those things that's earned, not given. And truly being around the right people, the right place, the right time, and surrounding myself with people that are stronger than me and better than me is what truly wrote that resume. But the most important part of the bottom of that is that I'm married to my wife of 29 years. She works for the St. Johns County School District. She's actually the health services coordinator right now, dealing with the COVID-19 response with our school kids here in St. Johns County. We got two great sons, truly blessed and proud. Our oldest son, Cole, actually graduated from Florida State University, then went on to law school, graduated from law school and works here in St. Johns County. And then our youngest son, Brett, graduated from Flagler College, and actually he's a pilot in the United States Army. He flies Chinook helicopters and also flies for the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office too, before I became your sheriff. So he's been an employee here for about 3.5 years, and he flies both of our aircraft here at the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. So again, and the reason why I mentioned that too, stability in the family is what really makes leadership positions, function properly. And I'll kind of use those words loosely. When you have a stable home and stable family, it makes coming to work so much easier. I'm probably the most unorthodox sheriff you've ever had in your here in St. Johns County. This morning I was up at 3 o'clock at the office at about 4:30 this morning, and usually I hit the gym on the way in, sometimes 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, then I get here. And the reason why I do this is I try to see it. 2/3 of our force, which we'll talk about here in a minute, are on shift work. Our communications center, our jail, and our law enforcement officers. So the only way to see those men and women is not to work 8 to 5. You got to work some unorthodox office hours in order to see everybody that actually supports this agency and supports the mission of the St. Johns County Sheriff. So just real quick, the Sheriff Shore, if you don't know, he mentored me throughout my entire career. Been so blessed that he's allowed me to transition to the office of the sheriff here over the last month or so after the primary, and then actually hired me to come in here into office about 2 weeks ago after the general election. Speaking of the primary and the general election, just wanted to thank our business partners and our voters here in St. Johns County. The primary, we won 70 to 30%. And the general election, we actually took 139,000 voters here in St. Johns County, which means there was a lot of cross-voting, cross-party voting, which is really, truly what makes a good leader here in St. Johns County. Is we provide services to every race, creed, color, religion, and sexual orientation. So it just felt good to win so big here in St. Johns County and be supported. Real quick, I want to talk about the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office and really open up the questions here of our viewers and listeners on here. But St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, we run a $90 million budget. Actually, it's 89.5 million. And under that budget, actually, it operates, it's kind of broken down into some bigger parameters. The biggest budget item on there, of course, is the operations of our law enforcement officers in St. Johns County, which is around $52 million. We have 360 sworn deputy sheriffs. That includes me here in St. Johns County. Out of that 360 deputy sheriffs, of course, we handle court services. We handle, of course, our own investigations unit. We handle a lot of unique, parts of St. Johns County to include special operations, SWAT, motor unit, and some other specialized units we'll talk about here in a minute. The next biggest part of our budget is about $22 million. And actually that budget actually includes our corrections. So over in corrections, we have 140 sworn deputy sheriffs that actually work in the Department of Corrections. As of this morning, our population was 441 inmates. Out of that 441 inmates, and I will tell you this, back in the 1990s when I was working for St. Augustine City, as you know, we had a pandemic called crack cocaine going on back then. We had no other services in St. Johns County to bring our people that needed help, whether it's mental health crisis, substance abuse crisis, or simply committed a crime. They all went to the St. Johns County Jail. With that being said, our population back in the 90s was up in the 500s into almost 600 here in St. Johns County. So proud to say now our population this morning is 441. Out of that 441, about 60 of those inmates actually are sentenced to the Department of Corrections for a prison term. However, with COVID-19, been a lot of interesting things going on in the state, so they will not take those inmates. They only take so many inmates a month to the Department of Corrections. So our population is relatively low right now. The next part of those budgets actually go to our bailiffs next door, our school crossing guards, and also our inmate medical funds, and that makes up our $80 million budget. So, here in St. Johns County, we are actually a totally self-supported agency, meaning that we have our own aviation unit. We have 2 helicopters over there. One is a military surplus that was purchased through the federal government, which is called DRMO, for really pennies on the dollar back in the day. And then we actually bought a new helicopter from Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office approximately 2 years ago, which is about a 3-year-old helicopter. It's a Bell 407. So full aviation unit with 2 full-time pilots, full-time mechanic, and a full-time lead pilot who's currently out on medical leave as we speak today. We also have a full-time marine unit. Our marine unit actually consists of 3 boats. We have 2 basically boats for the ocean side, and then a boat actually called a Pathfinder, which is basically a riverside boat. Full-time marine unit with a sergeant and 2 guys that actually work in the marine unit. So our traffic unit actually consists, most of you have probably seen those here in St. Johns County. Our traffic unit consists of actually traffic homicide investigators. Those are significant traffic crashes that involve death or serious bodily injury. We have some officers that actually ride motors and some that actually are in unmarked cars. And then we're actually slowly transitioning back to our old DUI units because we've had such an influx of DUIs over the last, 10 to 15 years, 5 to 15 years. So that being said, again, we have to fluctuate, based on our adjustments of what we need here for manpower and to actually service you as our citizens and taxpayers. So on top of that too, we talked about some things that actually occur here in St. Johns County. My goal as your sheriff in St. Johns County is to reduce recidivism and to reduce, to get a better grasp on this mental health and mental illness and provide better services. So what I did was I brought in a new director of our St. Johns County Jail. Her name is Tara Wilds. Tara Wild was actually a 30-year veteran with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. She retired as the head of their corrections department, which usually handles about 4,000 inmates population at any given time. So she's come on board with me. She's running my jail now as of last month. And again, her goal is that reentry program, mental health program, and to bring in more services for our men and women in that jail to hopefully bring them back to society and convince them that they don't want to come back here again. So we've really taken on that, spearheading that program. Again, my first day with the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, I get sworn in as your sheriff on January 5th, but I'm physically operating as we speak today as a quasi sheriff-elect, a quasi undersheriff. And again, Sheriff Shore is allowing me to bring my entire transition team over here to the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. And we're beginning our transition to the new era under Sheriff Hardwick and of course, our executive staff and the men and women of St. Johns County. Currently our dispatch center, as you know, we're actually moving, which is exciting. We're moving to a brand new facility, which is way overdue. We learned through the Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Michael too, and Hurricane Dorian, which is our last 2 hurricanes. Even though Michael hit the panhandle, it actually wiped out a lot of Pensacola, Panama City infrastructure over there. So with that, we are in a floodplain as we speak today. We've had to evacuate our comm center for those hurricanes. And so with that, we had to make a decision to move our comm center. So our comm center in March will be moving out to 95 and 16 by the Agricultural Drive. And it's just a first-class facility, which I'm hoping as business partners you'll actually see out there. We're handling about 18,200 calls of service a month, our dispatch center. That's productivity calls and also calls for service, meaning 911 calls, traffic crashes, assistance basically to our community here in St. Johns County. So we're averaging just under 250,000 calls for service in St. Johns County with our dispatch 911 center. So with that, again, we have a very interesting population here in St. Johns County. You, especially in the north part of our county, as business owners and business community leaders, understand that our growth in St. Johns County, especially the north, it's becoming its own part of St. Johns County. We're the second fastest growing county in the state, which all of you know. Who does not want to live here in St. Johns County? I mean, it's just a rhetorical question that, our schools are number one. Our law enforcement is providing adequate, great services. Our crime rate is at an all-time low. We're implementing a lot of modern technology, which we'll talk about here in a minute, that are trying to keep our crime stats low and keep our criminals out of St. Johns County. And with that being said, again, we're going to have some innovative techniques as we address some crime issues here in St. Johns County, to include our traffic on 95. If you're not paying attention, we have a high amount of traffic deaths on 95 in the area, 210 and 95 and World Golf. So we're going to go ahead and implement a program on 95. Some type of interdiction squad that's going to hopefully slow down these people, save some lives, and hopefully deter some criminal activity coming through our county. Right now, we can show you our stats are almost like they were back in the 80s and 90s. Drugs are heading north from Miami, and money is heading south to Miami. And also, too, we have a significant amount of methamphetamine heading out of Atlanta, heading south through the 95 corridor, heading down towards South Florida. Our human trafficking, which is pretty much headed up by the federal government now through the task force. We're seeing an abundance of human trafficking leaving South Florida and actually heading north on 95. You name the transportation method, and they're actually doing it because there's a high stake on these human trafficking techniques and bodies per se. The human trafficking, of course. So our goal is to get on 95 and basically interdict human trafficking, interdict drugs, interdict people that are wanted out of state, out of the area here that are wanted for violent felonies, and pick them up and put them in jail and hopefully lower crime in our jurisdiction. So part of the modern technology we've been using is what they call a license plate reader. So we have a real-time crime center that I'm proud to show you now, but I'm proud to show you even more so when we move our real-time crime center to our brand new facility out off of that same facility where our comms is going. So real-time crime is exactly like it sounds. We are actually tracking real-time crime through cameras, through license plate readers, through cameras in our schools and cameras in our intersections. And also too, as we begin to implement body cameras around the first of the year in 2021, our body cameras will be able to integrate with our real-time crime center, meaning we can feed body camera footage to our real-time crime center to hopefully save a deputy sheriff's life and or save actually a citizen or a person that we're providing services to in St. Johns County. So with that, again, the license plate reader technology that we have here in St. Johns County, it's not a big brother thing, but if you're anti-government, probably you don't want to hear this, so you might want to shut the video off. But our license plate readers, we have about 180 here in St. Johns County as we speak. What the license plate reader does, I'll give you a quick scenario and you can kind of figure it out. We had a license plate readers are mostly every place you can enter St. Johns County or exit St. Johns County, we have license plate readers to include all of our bridges onto the island side or onto the mainland side. And what it simply does is if these tags are actually entered into a system where they're wanted, meaning that a person was wanted for a violent crime or the vehicle has been used in a violent crime, it's actually entered into the system called the National Crime Information Center database. And on that National Crime Information database, we actually tag these vehicles per se. So a quick scenario was a couple months ago, we had a vehicle that was wanted out of Pennsylvania for an armed robbery and a carjacking. The vehicle left that area after it committed a violent crime, a murder up there in that area. And the vehicle was entered into the database. So the vehicle came down A1A into our jurisdiction and entered into St. Johns County just past JTB into Ponte Vedra area. The vehicle hit on the license plate reader as wanted out of Pennsylvania and involved in a murder, and it was stolen. So what it does, it takes a photo of the front of the vehicle and it takes a photo of the back of the vehicle and it sends that photo to our men and women. And we basically start hunting for that vehicle in the area it was last actually hit on. The reason why it sends a photo is because it gives us an idea of who's in that vehicle. If we're looking for a wanted person, maybe a white male in this particular incident. And we know he's alone because we don't see anything else in the vehicle. So potentially either someone's laying down or he's traveling alone. So there's other license plate readers. So in this particular area, there's a license plate reader at the at Ponte Vedra and JTB, as I spoke about. There's one at Solano Road, there's one at Michael Road, and there's one actually on Palm Valley Road. So those cameras did not hit. So we know that vehicle is somewhere in the vicinity of Solano Road and actually Ponte Vedra JTB area. Our men and women start looking for the vehicle. The camera actually hits on it again, and we actually, our men and women are basically, as this camera hits, they're providing real-time crime intel. Our men and women that work in our real-time crime center start going to our FDOT cameras, start going to our St. Johns County cameras, start going to our business partners cameras, and start looking for this vehicle in the area. One of our deputy sheriffs actually finds the vehicle in the Publix parking lot up in Ponte Vedra. He turns around the vehicle. He identifies the tag as one and the same. The vehicle matches the picture that was taken of the vehicle. He approaches the vehicle. The suspect gets out of the vehicle. He fires 2 shotgun rounds at our deputy sheriff. He misses him. Our deputy sheriff retreats back to his car and fires 2 magazines at the suspect. The suspect retreats back into his car and actually attempts to take his own life. But with that, again, we get a violent felon person off our street that already committed a murder. And also too, we recover, valuable products and again, get it out of the system. So that's just a quick snippet or snapshot of our system that we have in place. So with that, again, we're going to continue with modern technology, as I talked about with our body cameras. We're doing a pilot program starting in January. This was something that I just didn't need to discuss in my campaign. It was something that I wanted to hear from our taxpayers and our business owners. And I wanted to hear what was the best thing for St. Johns County. So here we are going to do an implementation program, a pilot program in January. So looking forward to showing our community of what we can do with modern technology. With that, I really want to open it up for questions. And again, just thank all of you for supporting me and supporting the Office of the Sheriff here in St. Johns County and supporting law enforcement and supporting our military. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. And I just want to ask everybody to type your questions into the chat, and I'll read them off so that we don't have a whole lot of Zoom overlap going on here. But let me start at the top and we'll work our way through the current list of questions. First question's from David Permenter and followed up by Donna Guzzo. How long is a sheriff's term and how would you describe your management style?
Sure. So a current sheriff's term for St. Johns County is 4 years under the Florida Constitution. However, as just real quick, I mean, there's been some talk of some term limitations. which are actually, as we see up in Jacksonville, Duval County, sheriffs up there can serve 2 consecutive terms of 4 years and 8 years in a route. Currently, right now, there is no limitations on how many terms I can serve. My leadership style is very, I tell you, it's hard to define in a few words, but taking my military operational experience and taking my leadership experience in the St. Augustine Police Department, St. Augustine Beach Police Department, in the Office of the State Attorney, it's a hands-on approach. However, I don't micromanage. I hold my staff to a higher standard. I hold them accountable, but also too, I let them make decisions as well. So you're going to see a very innovative agency that allows their men and women, especially at the rank of sergeant, to make decisions. So again, hands-on approach, but really hands-off too, as an operational leader in the U.S. military.
Super. And kind of following up on that piece right there, how would you handle a situation if one of your subordinates were to commit a crime?
Sure. So, one thing you read in my biography was, I've been a member of the Criminal Justice and Standards and Training Commission under Governor Rick Scott. I had to actually terminate my term when I took over the office of the sheriff, because you actually hold that term as a chief of police. And the governor has asked me to actually to come back on after I get settled in here, back to that commission. And the reason why I mentioned that is that commission actually handles all of our Office of Discipline across the entire state. That's about 45,000 police officers, about 30,000 correctional officers, and about 8,000 probation parole officers. And we handle all the discipline that comes across our plate. And, as a commissioner, proud to say, I guess humbled to say that we increase the amount of officer certificates that we took. Meaning that, listen, there's certain things you cannot do in this profession. We can't catch all of you, but the ones that we have caught, it's time to hand your certificate in and go do another profession, but not this profession here. So it's easy for me. I've done it my entire career. I worked police corruption for the Office of the State Attorney under Governor Jeb Bush, and then under Governor Rick Scott, and then under now Governor DeSantis. So unfortunately, this profession, I don't think there's any other profession that holds our men and women more accountable than us, when we have our own unit that all they do is internal affairs to investigate our own. So I hold my people to the highest standard. We're not going to tolerate crimes being committed in this profession. And you will be terminated or prosecuted, or both, all the above, if you do commit a crime as a member of mine. Not just my police officers too, that's my civilian staff, all held to the same standard.
Excellent, thank you. And a comment from, it's a comment, not a question, comment from Keith Johnson, which is, I am worried about all these cameras and license plate readers. Individual freedoms and liberties far outweigh the need for safety. So there is concern. What else can you tell us about that program with regard to individual freedoms and liberties?
Sure, absolutely. So I want our viewers to understand that this is not a big brother checking on you. This is to reduce. We want to have the best place to live, work, and play and raise our families in St. Johns County is that place. In order to do that, we have to implement modern technology to use in the situation. We are not monitoring every car that's going behind me right now on US 1. We're not doing that. We don't have the time to do it. We don't have the resources to do it. What our goal is that when you set parameters inside this license plate reader system, it's not to check the people that are actually abiding by the law. It's not even to check the people that actually have a suspended license, or if they have an expired tag, or if they ran a red light. We're not doing that. What we're trying to do is keep the bad people out of St. Johns County. And we're also trying to do this. So it may seem easy to say now that we don't believe in, or we don't support the license plate reader system. But I guarantee if a violent crime occurs where you're the victim, or your family is the victim of that, and you question the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office saying, why did you not solve this crime? I'm going to tell you, we've used every method, mean, technology we can possibly do to solve that crime and put it to rest with your family that we did solve that crime. So again, it's a system you have to believe in. It's a system that we are not abusing. I will not allow to abuse. It's not there to be abused. It's there to keep violent people out of our jurisdiction and to solve violent crimes.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. Question from Reese Henderson. What new types of training are you implementing for your deputies to improve their skills, especially in interactions with the public?
Absolutely. So, one thing that I never thought, 28 years in this profession, that we would become a social worker, and our men and women by de facto have become social workers on the street. We're the first ones dealing with every issue you can possibly imagine, especially with mental health and mental illness. So that being said, de-escalation is a big topic. It's easy just to say a check in the box and say, we're teaching, we're de-escalation. No, we got to do more than that. We got to involve our communities, and we got to involve our law enforcement officers. Again, we got to get more involved, and that's a fault of ours too as well. But how do you teach de-escalation? Well, you teach it by on-the-job training for the most part. You can teach a class, you can teach a PowerPoint, but until you interact with the public and actually do the right thing all the time when no one's looking. So our training is an ever ongoing process. I want to say we're providing some of the most first-class training I've ever seen in my career as a law enforcement officer. Again, holding our people that are training and our deputy sheriffs accountable for their actions of what they do. As we talked about a minute ago, these body cameras are going to be great for us because we can take this body camera on a critical incident or even a simple traffic stop and educate our men and women on maybe some practices that are not to the best standards, and actually teach our people what the best standard is. So again, using technology and every mean out there, but bringing in also too, one thing I'm proud to tell you right now is we're bringing in some mental health experts. I'm going to open an internal behavioral health unit. Dr. Tracy Hemanowski and Colonel Ann Johnson, a clinical psychologist, are coming in for us. Again, we want every tool possible to teach our men and women how to interact with every race, creed, color, religion, and sexual orientation. So it's an ongoing process. We're open. We want partnerships with our community. And also too, we want to be able to interact with our community and say, hey, this is something I recommend to you, Sheriff, that we should be doing to better educate our men and women. I'm all ears. So best practices, every training that we can possibly think of. And again, interacting with our community and business partners saying, hey, what can we do for you to provide a better service?
Super, thank you. A question from Kevin Rout. I am an attorney in practice family law and criminal defense. Do you envision having a relationship with the criminal defense bar?
I will tell you this, and I didn't catch the first name of that gentleman. Sorry.
Kevin.
Kevin, again, this is not be answering you wisely, but if you would do your research on me in St. Johns County, I probably have one of the best relationships with defense attorneys that you've probably ever seen. I'm very proud of that too as well. And I say that, because when I was the assistant chief investigator with the state attorney's office, listen, the defense attorneys have a job to do just as a prosecutor has a job to do. And with that being said, I show everybody the same amount of respect. And with that, again, if you ask around a little bit, Kevin, about me here in St. Johns County, especially among the defense attorneys, and I say felony defense attorneys because those are the ones that are currently practicing that work with me. I go above and beyond. As a matter of fact, I told my men and women this morning, hey, call the defense attorney back and have a conversation with them. We're not too good for them. And all they're looking for is to actually prove a person innocent or guilty. So with that being said, I take a pride in my relationships I have here in St. Johns County with our attorneys, every single one of them. I've worked hard at it and I continue to work hard at it, and I will until I leave this profession. It's the right thing to do.
Excellent, thank you. Question from Stephen Hudson. Describe your involvement with the Leadership St. John's program.
Sure. So Leadership St. John's, and don't fault me for my date when I retired, but actually I retired from Leadership St. John's Academy. It's been probably 3 or 4 years ago. I hate the fact now with our COVID-19 going on, because it was probably one of the best classes I took because it opened my eyes to a lot of businesses in St. Johns County. Being here my entire life, I just didn't pay attention to. And now I have all these great partnerships among the entire county because I attended that Leadership St. John's. So Leadership St. John's is an important key to success for every person involved in this profession, meaning our profession that's listening today and viewing today. That's that business partnership. And I'm all about, by the way, you're going to see a community partnership like you've never seen before with this agency, because that's what got me here, was people believing in me that don't work in this profession and people supporting me that don't work in this profession throughout my entire career. So I take that community and business partnership so important. So definitely every time we have a Leadership St. John's Academy, one of my people will be attending from my staff and from my lower level, which is my succession plan of the agency.
Excellent, thank you. And just a comment from Victor Ramos, just said, by the way, congrats on your election. And a question from Marius Dobrin. If the government is imposing a mandatory face mask and or limits the gatherings, especially in a home, are you going to impose those restrictions?
So do not get upset with me. Constitutional, elected sheriff in the state of Florida, I hope you understand when I say we have better things to do, we have better things to do. As human beings in society, we got to hold our own selves accountable for our actions. And with that being said, I did have a mandatory mask mandate when I was the chief of police in St. Augustine Beach, just a few months ago. And I made it very clear to the commission that my men and women, listen, we're having a hard enough time as it is in law enforcement, with people respecting us with what's going on around the nation, not just here in St. Johns County. So with that, the last thing we're going to do is step into a person's personal space and say, you're going to put your mask on. So I hope you don't get upset with this answer, but as your sheriff here in St. Johns County, our men and women will not be enforcing that mask mandate. That's what we should be doing in society, personally taking our own responsibility and not putting that onus on our men and women who are trying to enforce criminal acts and protect you as citizens in St. Johns County.
Thank you. And a question from Greg Harris. Do you know Bill Dyer? He works as a volunteer, as a counselor to prisoners. His program is called Bridges to Life, which was originated in Texas, and Bill has brought it to Duval. The goal is to reduce the rate of recidivism. I'll probably not ever pronounce that one correct. You mentioned that I wanted to see if there is any interest in speaking with Bill.
I absolutely, yeah. I'm familiar with Bill. Sheriff Williams and I up in Duval County are very close, along with Sheriff Cook over in Clay County. So we've actually talked about, we lost the guy here just a year ago who was one of our lead pastors in our jail with providing faith-based services in there. So yes, sir, I'm all open. Please reach out to me. I'll give you my email address before I get off the air today. It's simple. It's rhardwick@sjso.org. Send me his information. I'll reach out to him and we'll make that contact. Of course. Yes, sir.
Super. Another question from somebody from an iPhone says, are there any plans to engage our youth through any education and or sports programs to help support our young people and provide leadership opportunities?
Absolutely. We just talked about this last night. So if most of you don't know in here, I think Eric touched on it very quick in my bio, but I'm a youth coach here in St. Johns County. I've been coaching for 28 years. My Gamble Rogers Middle School football program just won the championship again week before last. And I was actually last night I was with our Explorer program. Our Explorer program is our youth program that we have here in St. Johns County, where kids that want to be involved in law enforcement. We have 50 kids in the program now with a waiting list. I was out there last night when they were doing building clearing and interviews and interrogations. It was pretty cool to see these young men and women. So I'm actually going to do some type of program here. I feel like, and I'm kind of a victim of this too as well, is as our youth in St. Johns County, you make a mistake in life and it tarnishes your resume per se the rest of your life. And right now with the U.S. military really not being engaged in a lot of combat zones with our presidency changing. With that being said, of course, our men and women, if they have one blemish, these young men and women have one blemish on their record, they can even join the U.S. Army, U.S. military. So with that, again, I'm going to do an in-house program here with the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, where some type of leadership program where you can actually, your parents can actually sentence you per se to this, or the court sentences you to this on some minor misdemeanors or nonviolent crimes. And let's go ahead and do a program here and try to build these kids up. I've teamed up with Bartram Trail High School football team. They have a leadership program on now. And the reason why I met these young men and women is because they kneeled during 9/11 during a football game. And now I've actually joined forces with these young men, and we're going to go across St. Johns County and actually do some leadership stuff together. But I hate to use the word checkbook. I'm not sure if anybody has a checkbook anymore, but let's teach these men young men and women how to do a resume, how to do an interview, how to show up for an interview, how to fill out a Chick-fil-A application, but also too, how to do the right thing all the time when no one's looking. So I happen to coach in Southern St. Johns County, where most of our schools are Title I schools. Most of our kids are on reduced or free lunches. So with that, I'm all about that, but it starts at the top. If I'm mentoring and I show this leadership technology with our youth in St. Johns County or methods, I guarantee the rest of St. Johns County Sheriff's Office will follow suit. So I take our youth in St. Johns County very seriously because it's the future of society. It's the future of us, but we got to invest in them too as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. My own personal question here, just wanted to, I know you covered a lot of different bullet points right off the top. As soon as you start your new office in January, how do you see the implementation of the first 6 months rolling out for you?
It's funny. I'm actually doing a strategic plan for my first 100 for 90 days, 120 days, and 360, but basically. And with that being said, so my staff is important. I've actually identified our internal transition team, our external transition team, and with that, we're kind of already flowing in that direction. The sheriff has allowed me to make some personnel changes and movements here. Again, truly blessed with his mentorship, leadership, friendship, and now allowing me to transition in the agency. So I say there's going to be some things, that are going to occur on the first week in January, but some of that stuff's already occurring now. Just simply some staggering shifts I'm working on now, meaning that we're trying to, just last night, I actually I pulled an assessment last night. Basically, I talked about it, here a minute ago, but on this assessment, it talks about when our calls for service are probably most likely to occur here in St. Johns County, both proactive, officer initiated and non-initiated. So with that, again, we're going to make some adjustments with our shifts starting in January. And also too, I'm going to do some promotions based on attrition. We have some people that are retiring, the sheriff, the director of patrol, and also director of law enforcement are all retiring. So we have some ability to actually make some promotional, which I'm really excited about as we step into January, as well as a new supervisor or director of general services, which is my finance, my HR, my risk management, my records. Again, just putting my stamp, my footprint, and my leadership process in place in January. So a lot of changes to come to the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, which are really going to be better for our citizens in St. Johns County.
Super. And just a couple of comments in the threads about the Leadership St. John's program. It sounds like there's a lot of people very excited about that program. And it sounds like if you need any support from the local business community, there's plenty of people who'd be happy to volunteer or be a resource for you. So don't be shy to reach out.
Absolutely love it. And as I start my internal leadership, here in St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, a majority of my speakers are going to be people that are probably on this screen, and some people you brought up, Donna Guzzo and Victor Ramos. We don't always need to hear from cops. I learned my leadership styles when I did my master's degree thesis, and I actually did a study on JetBlue. And I learned how to take care of people through how JetBlue actually takes care of their people and steps outside that ordinary box that we all sit in and go, well, this is the way it's been forever. It must be the right way. So again, looking forward to partner up with you on this screen and our viewers and listeners, and excited to partner up with St. Johns County business partners.
There's a great comment from Sean Rotolo regarding sort of getting in front of your youth so that they don't have one blemish that keeps them from getting into something like the military. He was a recruiter for the Navy for 8 years and says a great many applicants miss an opportunity because of a mistake in their past. So first of all, thank you for your service, but I'll tell you what, we got to stop that. We mean in law enforcement, we're so quick to put knee jerk and pull that trigger per se. And next thing you know, the person's got a blemish on their record the rest of their lives. And with that, we just can't do that. I want to do my own program here, like a juvenile civil citation program. Let's go ahead and give these kids a second chance. Let's give them a little bit of structure maybe, because these kids are just not all coming from great homes anymore. When I grew up, divorced parents were not the normal. Now divorced parents are remarried, and, multi-engaged families where all kids are growing up together from different, mothers and fathers. That's the norm now. But it's not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's just society now. So with that being said, we got to look at all these different ways these kids are being raised and the homes they're living in, and go ahead and grasp it and get a hold of it and embrace it and help them out, help them be successful. That's excellent. There's another comment here from Reese Henderson, who just says, I really appreciate your professionalism and your approach to this position. So I think everybody's pretty excited about your personal style that you bring to the table here, and your vision for the future.
Truly humble. Thank you.
David Permenter asks, who is your successor as chief of police, and are you as involved in his or her transition as you are in your own at this time?
So as I've done in every seat I've actually held, I've immediately started my succession program. I identified a guy by the name of Lee Ashlock. Him and I met down in the islands working for the U.S. Army, and I immediately knew he was a leader. So I brought him on board, 8 years ago. And he's a leader currently in the United States Army Reserve National Guard program. That's how him and I met. And brought him on board, knew he was the right person for the agency. He was my assistant chief. 2 weeks before the primary, I was on a leave of absence. He stepped in my office and told me he had received orders to the Pentagon. So that was my succession plan, went out the door. So with that being said, Lee Ashlock literally left the first week in October. He's currently serving in the Pentagon right now as the liaison through our explosive ordnance disposal division up there as a major. He's actually getting promoted. So that was gone. But with that being said, my number 3, which was Dan Carswell, I went to the City of St. Augustine Beach Commission and actually proposed to them 3 options. One was to go ahead and put Dan as the interim chief, Dan Carswell, which is a great man, 16-year veteran of that agency. The second option was to go ahead and do basically a panel search based on each commissioner picking a person and me being involved too as well. And then the last option was to go ahead and do a national search like they did for me. So they went with option 1 for now, which is on a temporary basis. So Dan Carswell is the sitting interim chief over there. And he brought in a number 2 with a long history of law enforcement from the U.S. military and with the St. Augustine Police Department and the state attorney's office. So he's his number 2 as we speak. So they're in great hands, I believe. But there's a time you got to walk away as a leader and say, hey, listen, I left the place in a better place and I found it. Truly blessed, humbled, walked away. And I took my executive assistant with me too as well. She's here, Kathy Harrell, as well.
Super. I have another question. Just with regard to the general growth of St. Johns County, how is your staffing keeping up with that pace?
You know, it's so easy to do a staff analysis and say we need this many deputy sheriffs for this many in the population. Well, I'm not going to go that route. I've got a great partnership with our new county administrator, which is Hunter Conrad. I'm going to make it a goal of mine that all 5 commissioners, I work hand in hand with them. That was something that wasn't really perfected with our last sheriffs. And again, that's no fault of them. It's maybe just a fault of all the people involved. So that being said, I've met with all 5 of our county commissioners. And again, this is one of those things where I have to be involved with our county government, our county leadership, St. Johns County Fire and Rescue Chief Pravat. We got to do this together. We can't do things in the silo effect because we're going to fail. So again, I think we're doing well with that, keeping up with our crime trends. I don't want to be that deputy, that sheriff that answers to you and say, every time we come to the table, I want more people. I want more people. What you're going to hear from me when I come to the table as your taxpayers and responsible with your tax dollars is saying, listen, we got to build a new sheriff's office. This is 1984 over here. We're piecemealing it. I'm sitting in an office now that was once our medical examiner's office back in the 90s and 2000. That's where I'm sitting at now, his old office. So we got to take this agency and go to the next. Right now, it's good times for us. Business is great for a lot of us, even though we're still dealing with COVID-19. We see a continued increase, as you all know, in this screen of our permits for single family residents and for commercial business. That's a great thing. So with that, again, I think we're doing a good job so far. Listen, traffic management is not in the hands of the office of the sheriff. You know, traffic enforcement is, but traffic management is in the hands of our county commissioners. And we simply got to deal with what we have, and we're going to do with it the best we can with the ability that are set forth. But again, those partnerships with all of you on this screen is so important that we educate, communicate, and get out there and get out front of the issues we have here in St. Johns County.
Super. And what are some of the top challenges that your department is facing in general at this point as you take over office here shortly?
You know, the number one challenge we're going to deal with is continue, the right recruitment here in this profession. It's getting hard. I'm not sure. I say this again. Who wants to do this profession? I would do this profession again tomorrow morning. And I'm proud to tell you, like I already told you one time, my son served in this profession, and he had a chance when he came back off military leave to stay in the U.S. military and just fly, but he's doing both. So I believe in the profession so much that I continue to recruit some of the best men and women. I will tell you this, the pendulum has swung a little bit to the opposite way, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I've figured out how to recruit great females in this profession. And with that being said, I've taken a hold of this recruiting females, educated females, and it's become a little bit of a kind of a challenge for me because I don't have any daughters. I've adopted a bunch of daughters, for goodness sakes, with a bunch of great women that are doing this profession. So recruitment is always going to be a challenge. We have a bunch right now because we have a great county to live in. Problem is, our deputy sheriffs making $43,000 a year cannot afford to live in St. Johns County, especially on one income. So a lot of them, the houses in St. Johns County, you'll see multi-deputy sheriff's cars in these houses because you got 2 or 3 living in one house, renting, a room or so. So recruiting is always number one. Of course, the management of our budget is number one, number two. Our budget took a hit on there just 2-3 years ago, where our CFO was arrested for stealing almost $800,000 of our taxpayers' dollars, and our officer benevolence fund too as well. She stole from. So with that, of course, that budget is personal to me. I'm bringing the right staff and the right CPAs on retainer with us. So that budget is going to be challenging to always fight that, to make sure we're doing the right thing, all the time with that budget and handling your taxpayers' dollars with diligence and make sure accountability. So those are two of the biggest things. The jail is a concern of mine. The jail is getting old. We've put Band-Aids on it for years and years and years. It was built back in the 80s, and you can say what you want about our inmate population, but they're just people that made mistakes in life, and they're doing their time per se. But with that, I got to put them in the right place where they are being well taken care of. Our men and women that work in that facility, it's in a healthy environment where there's no dangers in there and things are going to get hurt at. But also too, we're eventually going to have to repair that jail. And that's a massive undertaking, I should say, by our taxpayers as I got to move it out of a flood zone, first of all, but also build the facility right. So those are big three concerns I have. There are many others, but those are just three concerns off the top of my head. Challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to put into the chat bar? Ed Dwyer, could you talk about the use of drones in your line of work?
Yep, absolutely. Currently, we have, we had a bigger plan for these drones, and I'll tell you what, as our aviation unit continues to be up, we got some great experienced pilots, as we talked about earlier with our aviation program. So our goal was to have that helicopter up, just like I talked about the stats and data I pulled last night from our men and women at Comm Center. Our goal was to make sure aviation is up at all times, because you can't beat that FLIR system on the helicopter. Our drone program is in place. We've had great success with it. Matter of fact, it's being actually introduced to patrol. So most of the patrol sergeants actually have them. So one patrol in Southeast, Southwest, Northeast, and Northwest actually have one of these drones. We used it last weekend to find a dementia patient that actually wandered off behind the house until our actual aviation unit actually got up. So our drone program, if you don't pay attention, I'll tell you what, 42 miles of beach, if we don't go a weekend without a child walking away from a parent that either fell asleep or was in the ocean, the kid just walked away. I mean, it's so important that these drones be deployed immediately. So we're continuing to go ahead and increase our drones here in St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. And again, just another great service of modern technology that we're going to provide, that we can protect our men and women and citizens and hopefully, save that one life. So yeah, it's very robust, and it's actually getting bigger and bigger as our budget increases with our drone program, and our operators get certified as pilots, which is required by FAA regulates that.
Thank you. And a couple of questions from David Permenter. I think he wants to quit his magazine and become a sheriff. He's asking what the average pay is for sheriff deputies. And a follow-up to that is, do the helicopters roam or take to the air only on demand?
Nope. So the first part of the question is, listen, we're open. We take applications all the time here in St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. Our starting pay is $43,000. But then again, if you have some years of service in a college education, of course, you get a little bit of bump in pay. So, with that, of course, our deputy sheriffs make a lot of pay and a lot of overtime money with call outs, specialized alternative duties that they actually pull, substantive duties that they pull, maybe SWAT or, crisis intervention team or dive team. So plenty of opportunity for you to make plenty of money, David. So come on board, come join the family here at the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. Our aviation program, like we talked about earlier, we just hired a great pilot from the Florida National Guard. Jerry Dedge was actually hired full-time yesterday. He's been a reserve deputy sheriff with us for 23 years as a reserve pilot. He retired from the Guard with almost 15,000 hours of service, hours in the sky flying. He came on board just yesterday, so he'll be our senior pilot. Our second pilot, which is our lead pilot, Matt Bellamy, took an unexpected medical emergency, and he's been out for the last 4 to 5 months. So God willing, he'll be back in full service by a year. As we talked about, we have two what we call just basically lower enlisted or junior pilots, which is Josh Butler and my son, Brett Hardwick. Brett Hardwick actually is a U.S. Army Chinook pilot, as we talked about earlier, and Josh Butler is one of our newer pilots. So currently we have Chief Dedge or Captain Dedge is flying our young pilots quite a bit. And then Brett Hardwick and, of course, Josh Butler are our two primary pilots. So our goal is to have them up right now in the air between 9 and 9 every day. Those are our, like we talked about earlier with this survey of calls for service. I can show you on this sheet right here, pretty much from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night is the majority of our calls for service. So with that, our aviation will be up. Those pilots will be at the airport. Most time they're up and flying because they're just, again, they're roaming the county for something going on. So our goal is to have that actually expanded a little bit as our agency grows with 2 helicopters, one up, not at all times, but during the peak hours of our calls for service.
Excellent. I wanted to go back to something you were touching on with the jails. You mentioned there's over 400 people in the jail currently, and you're stating a lot of those folks just made a mistake in life, and not necessarily hardened criminals. What I was kind of taken away from that. What's the best way to help them use that time to repatriate in a healthy way once they're done with their time?
Sure. Just yesterday morning, I actually walked in the jail, and I take, my career started in the Department of Corrections in the prison, and then went to a county jail, and then on to being a law enforcement officer, working patrol. So yesterday, it's funny. I walked to the jail yesterday, and there's a block called Block 23 and Block 24, and Block 24 is most of our, I'm going to say it's our serious violent criminals in there. Most of them are waiting sentencing or trial, and it's serious crimes, murder, robbery, are some other violent crimes there too as well. And I walked in there and actually had a conversation with the inmates, so that's one thing here in St. Johns County. I actually listened to them. They were talking about some things that they could do to actually prepare their time or prepare themselves for trial. I want to make every opportunity to make sure that we're given the opportunity to be upstanding citizens if and when they get out of prison and or jail. So with that, we have some programs in place in there. I think we can do better. The inmates that are county sentenced, matter of fact, we just talked about this today. I'm going to bring in a small engine repair company to give classes to our inmates that actually clean up around the jail out here or around the our facilities. I would love them to get out of here and walk out with a certificate, maybe in lawn maintenance or lawn care and small engine repair. So we're going to team up with the First Coast Technical College and see what we can do here. I talked about bringing in a beautician to train our women in there to get them out with a certificate, maybe in style and hair. Our women now currently work in the kitchen preparing food. So I'm going to bring in a culinary arts center. So again, we're just trying to do whatever I can to educate them, give them a certificate of compliance or completion on something that will hopefully get out and help them get a job. So again, just trying to be innovative, think outside the box a little bit, listen to people too as well. But for me to walk in the jail and talk to inmates, I mean, I hate to call them the inmates. I don't know what the right word is, but I got to think of something different when I'm your sheriff saying they're not inmates. They're serving time here for a crime. You look at some of their histories, they've never done anything wrong before. They were pushed beyond their control, maybe mentally or physically, and they responded to it. So, and other people, by the way, commit crimes for survivability. We've had a hard time with I'll call it a recession based on COVID-19, but I don't have jobs. And sometimes you got to rob Peter to pay Paul to pay the bills. And I don't respect it, but I can live with it and understand it as long as you didn't hurt somebody else. There's certain crimes that's in society that are just not acceptable. And I don't want to go through those and name them, but, crimes against children and, murder crimes and some other violent crimes where innocent victims are truly a victim of a crime. I got some issues with it. But again, let's go ahead and rehab them and prepare them for reentry into our society.
Excellent. Well, Rob, just a few minutes before the top of the hour, are there any last minute points you would like to make or summarize?
Nope, not at all. I just want to thank our business partners here in St. Johns County. I want to thank you for having me on today. And we truly, I cannot thank you enough for the way that you treat my men and women. It's very seldom that my men and women go into a restaurant and are not either greeted or thanked or a meal paid for, or even a cup of coffee paid for. And our community believes in us. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Do you get stopped on a traffic stop and you're upset? Absolutely. But I hope you understand that we have a service to provide here. We're trying to save lives. And with that being said, again, I'm an open book. I'm easy to get a hold of. A lot of people that spoke today and sent in comments, they have my cell phone number. I tell you this, if you think we're not doing something right, I challenge you to reach out to me. If you don't address the problems with me as your sheriff in St. Johns County, then I fail. You have failed me. You failed our services. So again, we want to provide the best services that we can for St. Johns County. But thank you for believing in me. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for electing me as your sheriff. I will not let you down. And I'm looking forward to serving you here in St. Johns County.
Thank you very much, Rob, for being here this morning. And again, a lot of enthusiasm for you taking over this position. Don't be shy to reach out to any of us in any way that we can help support you and your causes.
Thank you very much. And God bless everybody and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much, Rob, and prayers for Pere and her family.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. I'll take care of her.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Andrea, do you want to wrap this up?
Just thank you everybody for being here. Rob, thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. We did record the video, so we will get that mixed out for you guys in addition to an email. So thank you for being here, and we'll go ahead and everyone have a safe and happy holiday.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.